Googling those tulips put me in mind of Nabokov, describing the supposed genesis of Lolita. He writes, "As far as I can recall, the initial shiver of inspiration was somehow prompted by a newspaper story about an ape in the Jardin des Plantes, who after months of coaxing by a scientist, produced the first drawing ever charcoaled by an animal. This sketch showed the bars of the poor creature's cage." I've always been interested in that quote, but without believing a word of it. Something inspired Lolita. I'm certain no primates were involved. The scientist offers the piece of charcoal expecting or hoping for a transcendent revelation about this ape, but the revelation turns out to be one of contingency, of a certain set of circumstances, of things as they happen to be. The ape is caged in by its nature, by its instincts, and by its circumstance. Which of these takes the primary role is for zoologists to debate. So it goes. I didn't need a Freudian to tell me that 3 middle-aged women teetering at the brink of perimenopause had been drawn to a gaudy symbol of fertility and renewal in the middle of a barren concrete metropolis. And, indeed, when we 3 spotted each other, there were shamefaced smiles all round. But in my case, the shame was not what it would have once been back in the day, back when I first read Lolita as a young woman. At that time, the cage of my circumstance in my mind was my gender. Not its actuality. I liked my body well enough. What I didn't like was what I thought it signified, that I was tied to my nature, to my animal body, to the whole simian realm of instinct, and far more elementally so than, say, my brothers. I had cycles. They did not. I was to pay attention to clocks. They needn't. There were special words for me lurking on the horizon, prepackaged to mark the possible future stages of my existence. I might become a spinster. I might become a crone. I might be a babe, or a milf, or childless. My brothers, no matter what else might befall them, would remain men. And in the end of it all, if I was lucky, I would become that most piteous of things, an old lady, whom I already understood was a figure everybody felt free to patronize, even children. You make me feel like a natural woman. I used to listen to that song and tried to imagine its counterpart. You could make someone feel like a real man, no doubt, its own kind of cage. But never a natural one. A man was a man was a man. He bent nature to his will. He did not submit to it, except in death. Submission to nature was to be my realm. But I wanted no part of that, and so would refuse to keep any track whatsoever of my menstrual cycle, preferring to cry on Monday and find out the supposed reason for my tears on Tuesday. Yes, much better this than to properly prepare for a Blue Monday or believe it in any way inevitable. My moods were my own. They had no reflection in nature. I refused to countenance the idea that anything about me might have a cyclic, monthly motion. And if I had children one day, I would have them on my own timeline, irrespective of how the bells were tolling on all those dreaded clocks in the women's magazines. Of broodiness, I would hear nothing. I was not a hen. And if, when I was in my 20s, any bold Freudian had dared to suggest that my apartment, filled as it was with furry cushions and furry rugs and furry bolsters, furry throws and furry footstools, in any sense implied a sublimated desire for animal company, or that I was subconsciously feathering my nest in expectation of new life, well, I would have shown that impertinent Freudian the door. I was a woman, but not that kind of woman. Internalized misogyny, I suppose they call all of the above now. I have no better term. But at the hot core of it, there was an obsession with control common amongst my people, writers. Writing is routinely described as creative. This has never struck me as the correct word. Planting tulips is creative. To plant a bulb, I imagine, I've never done it, is to participate in some small way in the cyclic miracle of creation. Writing is control. The part of the university in which I teach should properly be called the Controlling Experience Department. Experience, mystifying, overwhelming, conscious, subconscious.